Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking the core principles from 5 absolute powerhouse texts and smashing them together into one complete masterclass on transforming your life. We're going to connect the dots between the world's most powerful ideas on human behavior, habit formation, and true wealth to give you the ultimate system for success.
So what actually separates the people who achieve their dreams from the ones who only dream? Well, we often think success is about one big lucky break, but as you'll see today, the reality is far more intentional. Let's dive into the exact blueprint for taking total control of your mind, your habits, your environment, and your financial destiny.
Here's our quick agenda for the 4 pillars of transformation. First up, mastering your internal mindset. Second, building systems for success. Third, navigating external forces. And fourth, the true meaning of wealth.
Let's jump right into pillar number 1, mastering your internal mindset.
We really have to start with Napoleon Hill's concept of autosuggestion, which basically proves that our brains become magnetized by whatever thoughts dominate them. Think about a guy like Edwin Barnes. He didn't just casually want to work with Thomas Edison. No, he manifested a full-blown partnership out of sheer burning desire. I mean, the guy hopped on a freight train to New Jersey, totally broke, burned his boats, and just repeatedly fed his subconscious mind with the absolute certainty that he was going to succeed.
And because our minds are just so incredibly fertile, we really have to be impeccable with our words. Like Don Miguel Ruiz points out, the things we say to ourselves and to others, they essentially cast these powerful spells. They either create beautiful dreams or toxic emotional poison. If you're constantly telling yourself you're not worthy, well, your subconscious gets right to work making that your actual reality.
This is exactly why choosing a wealth mindset over a poverty mindset isn't just a nice idea. It is completely non-negotiable. Look, if your mind is sitting idle, a poverty consciousness, one driven by doubt and fear, is naturally going to rush in and fill that void. Fortunes literally gravitate to minds that have been specifically prepared to attract them.
All right, moving on to pillar 2, building systems for success.
Okay, let's geek out on the math of success for a second. James Clear highlights this amazing fact. Improving by just 1% every single day compounds to make you nearly 38 times better at anything in a single year. 38 times! These tiny, seemingly insignificant changes in your routine completely alter the trajectory of your life. It's kind of like adjusting a plane's nose by just a tiny fraction of a degree. It doesn't seem like much a takeoff, but you end up landing in a completely different country.
And this leads us to a really counterintuitive truth. Goals are for losers, and systems are for winners. I know that sounds a bit harsh, but focusing on the system actually changes your core identity. You shift from someone who just wants a specific result to someone who actually embodies the lifestyle. You don't just want to run a marathon, you want to become a runner. Once that identity shifts, the behavior just naturally follows.
So how do we build this system? We use the 4 laws of the habit loop to continuously shape our behavior with the least amount of effort possible. First, make good habits obvious by putting visual cues right there in your environment. Make them attractive by pairing them with stuff you already enjoy. Make them easy by using the 2-minute rule to totally kill any friction. And finally, make them satisfying so your brain is practically begging to repeat the loop tomorrow.
Let's transition over to pillar 3, navigating external forces.
If you want to protect all those great systems you just built, you absolutely must stop taking other people's opinions personally. Seriously. When someone throws negativity your way, you have to realize their emotional garbage is simply a reflection of their own reality, not yours. By just flat out refusing to agree with their unwarranted opinions, you stay completely immune to the emotional poison that derails so many people. But we also have to keep our guard up against something a bit more primal, and that's human envy. Robert Greene talks about how we all naturally compare ourselves to others. So when a friend starts succeeding, a fragile ego can really suffer. You've got to spot the subtle signs, like micro-expressions of disdain, or what I call poisonous praise, where they mix a compliment with a heavy dose of sarcasm. Recognizing active envy protects you from the people who might subtly try to sabotage your hard-earned progress.
To really ground ourselves in how crazy external forces can be, let's look at luck and risk. Compare the astronomical luck of Bill Gates to the absolute tragic risk encountered by his equally brilliant high school friend, Kent Evans. Gates had a literal 1 in a million shot to access a computer in 1968, which obviously shaped his whole future. But Evans, he fell victim to a 1 in a million fatal mountaineering accident. It is a wildly humbling reminder that both luck and risk are these massive, invisible forces constantly pulling the strings of our outcomes.
Navigating all this means accepting that the world is driven by tail events.
These are those rare occurrences where a tiny minority of things account for almost all of the outcomes. Take art dealer Heinz Berggruen. He could be wrong 99% of the time, but the 1% of absolute masterpieces he found drove his entire massive success. You don't have to be right all the time. In investing, in business, in life, you really just need to survive long enough for those few massive outliers to carry the bulk of your results.
Which brings us to our final stop today, Pillar 4, the true meaning of wealth.
Just as those atomic habits compound over time, so does your money. Warren Buffett's real secret isn't just his stock-picking skill, it's the sheer mind-boggling longevity of his time in the market. Check out this timeline. Nearly all of his massive fortune was accumulated after his mid-60s. His biggest competitive advantage wasn't just being super smart, it was starting at age 10 and literally never interrupting the compounding process.
The absolutely crucial point to understand here is the stark contrast between being rich and being wealthy. Being rich is what you can see, right? The flashy purchases, the big income, but being wealthy, that is the hidden restraint. It's the money you consciously choose not to spend. When you see someone in a brand new $100,000 sports car, the only thing you actually know about their finances is that they have $100,000 less than they did yesterday. True wealth requires self-control. It's the unseen portfolios and quiet restraint that actually give you long-term security.
But listen, if you don't know when you finally have enough, you are going to end up trapped on the hedonic treadmill. It's a dangerous trap where you just let the endless pursuit of more totally strip away your happiness. There are countless stories of ultra-successful people who ruined their lives because they literally couldn't stop chasing the next dollar. If the goalpost keeps moving every single time you hit a target, you're never actually going to win the game. And this brilliantly illustrates the ultimate takeaway from all of these texts. As Morgan Housel says, the absolute highest dividend money can ever pay is simply giving you control over your own time. True financial success isn't about the biggest house or the fanciest title. It's about waking up every single morning and knowing you have the total freedom to choose exactly how you spend your day.
As you go out there to build your habits, protect your mind, and master your environment, I really want to leave you with this final provocative thought to consider. Are you playing the game just to be rich, or are you playing the game to be truly wealthy? Take these 4 pillars, put them into action, and take absolute control of your life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.